It's time for the Maximum PC No BS podcast, episode 227 for the week of July 9th, 2014. On today's show, we'll be discussing Windows 9, Alienware getting back into the high-end desktop PC market, HummingBoard, and Haswell-E. We'll also, of course, wrap things up by taking some of your questions, giving you our editor's picks, and end with a rant from Gordon. All that and more is coming up right now. Right now.
They'll fix it in post.
Not if we talk over it. This is like bonus stuff. Oh wait, are you rolling now?
Yes.
Yeah, I know you're rolling. I was doing
This is the director's cut version.
Cut.
Yeah.
All right, cool. We'll start off with our first topic. Gordon, why don't you sort of talk about the latest Haswell-E rumors?
Right. So there were some leaks. Tom pointed it to me today. I think it was. I need to give due credit. These are rumors, so purely speculation. But as we noticed, podcasts are perfect places to speculate on shit you just made up or read somewhere. So this is out of Guru 3D. It's actually a respectable website. A lot of great stuff there. They are saying they leaked specs on 3 Haswell parts. Of course, there's been a lot of information on Haswell-E for a while. We know it's going to be 8 cores, but now it looks like, we've got the model numbers and the cores, and they've been claiming to have cache and the DDR4 rates. So the top-end part, so the big surprise, not really a surprise, but the top-end part is a Core i7, 5960X, 8 cores, 20 megs of cache. So that's expected for an 8-core part. DDR4 at 2133, not super high speed, but you expect it to ramp up. But it does get a bump up in TDP. Generally, most Ivory Bridge, Sandy Bridge E parts, Sandy Bridge E, were 130. Although they did have that kind of
I think the
150 part, but I think that was they just bend it that way for overclockers. But for the most part, they were 130 watt TDP parts. All 3 of these parts are 140. I would guess they were doing that because you're getting 2 more cores in the package. The next step down, so I'm going to imagine that 5960X, we guess, would be the $1,000 chip, right? So
right.
The extreme parts are always, actually, that's not fair to Intel. That's like saying it's overpriced. It'll be $999. So Core i7, 5930K, according to Guru 3D, is the next part. It's going to be a 6-core part, 15 megs of cache, also 140 watt TDP part. I'm going to guess that's probably going to be the $500 part, which is, I think, a little disappointing.
Yeah.
We were talking about this morning, Tom.
It seems to be changing the least from the previous generation, but...
Right, because right now you can get a $500 Ivory Bridge E, Sandy Bridge E part, 6-core part for $500.
Yeah.
So this is probably the same thing. A little disappointing because we would kind of hope there'd be a budget-oriented version of the 8-core part. And then down at the bottom, it's actually a 6-core part, so it doesn't sound like there's a 6-core part, although it is a little confusing. The Core i7, 5820K, according to Guru 3D again, guru3d.com. Let's just properly source that. 6 cores, 15 megs of cache. Pretty much, it seems like the same as the 5930K, but here's a wacky thing. We get down to the PCIe lane configuration. Remember, PCIe is integrated into the core on Sandy Bridge E, Ivory Bridge E, as well as Haswell-E. The top end, 5960X, you get 2x16 and another 1x8. And then you get another 2x16 and a 1x8. According to this report, this bottom end LGA 2011-3 part is a 1x16 part. And you also get then a 1x8 and a 1x4.
So it sounds like it has the same PCI Express lanes as 1150.
Yeah, it does almost, doesn't it? So it almost makes me wonder if maybe, since this is leaked information, maybe Intel actually has a 6-core Haswell part plan, I guess, or maybe Broadwell for all we know.
Well, it also seems that if it wasn't without that, there wouldn't be a whole lot to distinguish that tier from the middle tier chip for Haswell-E.
Yeah, I mean that is to me the really strange part, because why would you cut off the PCIe lanes? Because
then again, they might be pricing it at like $350 or $400, in which case maybe not a bad deal for some people.
Well, yeah. I mean, usually they sort of replace the previous. So I'm going to guess it's going to be a $330 part, right? But actually, the current Sandy Bridge E $300 part, you could get well under $300. A lot of times it's $280.
The 4820K, and it also has the full complement of PCI Express lanes.
Right. Yeah, but it's just weird to get a 1x16, a 1x8, and a 1x4. Although that's still more than you're getting out of an 1150 part because that's just simply 1x16 for running graphics.
That's true.
So it's really, these are all rumors. And also actually the other interesting thing, of course, is you're seeing a pretty big variance in clock speed. No surprise. So the mid tier 5930K 6-core part, according to the report, all rumors, they're saying 3.5 gigahertz. And then the top end 8-core part, they're saying 3 gigahertz. And of course, you're paying for that because you've got 2 more cores. You warm up those 2 other cores, you got a lot more heat to deal with. So, they have that was actually Intel's original rationale for the original Sandy Bridge E. A lot of people bitch because Sandy Bridge E parts were actually 8-core parts. They turned off 2 of the cores at the factory. They were laser cut. You could never reactivate them. Still this massive 8-core part, but they turned off 2 of the cores. And Intel's rationale was like, well, look, we did this so that we could get the TDPs down. If we actually left all 8 cores hot and you tried to overclock this thing, you'd melt your system.
Yeah.
So I don't really know if that's true or whether it really was an engineering reason or whether that was just simply a marketing reason because they didn't want people to buy these instead of Xeons, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't expect to be able to overclock it as high as the 4960X or whatever it's called. Just because there's 2 more cores to deal with.
Right.
But then again, you're getting 16 threads altogether, so in things that'll actually take advantage of that many threads, the sheer number of threads will overcome the lower clock speed probably.
Yeah, and I've seen this many. This is the same pattern we've seen. More cores, more threads will overpower higher clock speeds. Like even back in the Sandy Bridge days, if you looked at a quad-core part with no hyperthreading, so an i5 part at 4.5 gigahertz, Sandy Bridge. If you ran a multi-threaded load on it, basically a 3.5 gigahertz Sandy Bridge with hyperthreading was just as fast as a 1 gigahertz difference.
Yeah.
So
you really have to crank an 1150 part to keep up with the hex core 2011 chips.
Right.
How do the clock speeds compare to the Ivy Bridge E?
They're similar. I mean, it's a little lower on this top end part. I mean, they're looking at our top end Ivy Bridge E is 3.5. So
yeah, and I think that the top end Ivy Bridge E is like 3.2. I want to say 3.3 maybe.
Ivy Bridge E.
Yeah.
I thought it was like. Oh, I guess we should actually look instead.
Yeah, I can.
Why should we actually give people information?
Research. Come on.
All right. I will actually give you the clock speed if it's in the price list.
I'm gonna look at the
pull up your Android app. Intel Arc.
Yeah, but this is faster. So the 4960X, which is the current 6-core Ivy Bridge E part, is a 3.6 part.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
And then, if I remember right, the previous the Sandy Bridge E was a 3.2 part. So
that's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Right.
Then they found some temperature efficiencies with Ivy Bridge E, so they were able to increase the clock speeds.
Yeah, and again, I want to apologize to Intel for accusing them of price gouging on the top end part. It isn't $1,000. It is indeed $999.
And 99 cents.
99 cents. No, not 99 cents.
Oh, you save $1.
But so so the i7, the 4930K, which is we're going to imagine is going to be this 5930K, is currently list price of $583. So generally, internet's pricing about $550 for that part.
And really, I mean, like if you're an enthusiast, that's really the part to get, I would say, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean,
it's like, can you really justify that extra small margin of performance for double the price?
I got to say, the weird thing about this next generation of parts, though, is it sounds like, for the practical enthusiast, which is, I'm not running 3D rendering. I don't need 16 threads. I don't need 12 threads even. The 5820 part might actually be the better part. Because most people don't run SLI, and honestly, this still gives you more lanes than an 1150 platform. But if this 5820K comes in at the price of the 4820K, which is $323, and I'm guessing about $290, $280 on the street sometimes, that actually is going to be a pretty good platform. Because you can get DDR4, you're not going to get that out of Haswell. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're looking at an enthusiast who kind of wants to get to that next rung and you really don't think you need 6 cores or 8 cores, I think that 5820K part might actually be pretty appealing.
I'm expecting it to be in like the 450 range because
Really?
they don't have any competition from A&D at this particular tier, so they can price that one at 450 to make the mid range look more appealing in price. That's a pretty common sales tactic.
Well, you mean the 5820 part?
Yeah, make the 5820 around 450 to make
Yeah.
the middle tier look more appealing. Only $100 more.
Yeah, but they didn't do that with Ivory.
Yeah, but
And
they
they didn't
were
have
on
competition
core.
then.
The thing is, they were on thread parity because you basically had a quad core Ivory Bridge E or Ivory Bridge, and you had a quad core Ivory Bridge or Sandy Bridge. So they were always about the same. Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting to see if they introduce a new pricing for this 5820 part. I mean, it could be $400 because you're getting 2 more cores. Or maybe they just want to give people something to buy to get in. I mean, if this were a $300 chip, that would be a hell of a deal
Oh yeah,
over a Haswell part.
yeah.
You really don't need all the threads for most people, I'm going to guess.
Which is why
but-
they probably wouldn't price it that cheap because they wouldn't want to, cannibalize. Is it, whose phone
That's
is
somebody's ringtone?
I don't. For some reason,
I think that's yours, Gordon.
Yeah.
I put it
I
on.
think
Anything
you-
Star Trek, that's yours.
Yep.
that? Was it a phaser?
Yeah, but why the
Original
hell did
series.
it- Oh,
Hey.
I see.
I guess time will tell. We'll just have to sort of wait. Any
Yeah.
idea on when it might come out?
Well, the rumors and it's been headed for IDF timeframe launch for a long time. So I'd expect it
September-ish.
this fall, most likely, right?
Okay. Trying to
So
look up when IDF is.
yeah, September-ish
I think it's early
timeframe.
September.
Around then.
And DDR4 still isn't. They're not selling that stuff yet. So
Well, it's going to all be a bundle, right? Because the DDR4 guys are like, we want you to. In fact, they've been saying, Intel, we need you to make a chipset CPU for this because we want to sell this RAM. Intel's like, yeah, we want to make an expensive CPU for RAM that is very expensive that very few people will buy. And we
What-
want to do this. Why?
I think according to that chart, the memory controller for Haswell-E also operates at the 2133.
Right.
It's a big bump.
Yeah, although you could get
1150 is 1600 megahertz.
well, but
So-
you could, most of the overclocks we were definitely into the mid 2000s and on DDR3. So, but this is very similar to DDR2 to DDR3. You sort of had DDR3. Same thing with DDR to DDR2. Every time the next generation memory came in, it usually comes in at basically about the same speed as the higher end version of the previous memory.
Yeah.
Although overclocked versions, there were overclocked DDR and overclocked DDR2 that was
Right.
much higher than
But
DDR3 when
But
it first came
it still
out.
gives you quite a boost in the memory controller itself as operating at a higher speed rather than just the RAM, because then the RAM is
Hopefully.
waiting, cycles for the CPU to catch up.
Yeah, I mean that's always really it's the proof is in the pudding when we get the parts, right?
Right.
But yeah, there's
'Cause
sometimes
the timings could be slow,
the memory.
things like that.
I will say maybe because we've seen this with, at least I've seen it with Haswell and higher clock RAM, in that extra bandwidth does actually benefit Haswell's performance. Maybe we'll actually see DDR4 give Haswell-E a good performance bump.
Yeah, we'll see.
By the way, IDF is September 9th through the 11th.
So that's 2 months.
Right, so you should see it
8 weeks from now.
around then.
Around then.
And
Okay.
there'll of course be leaks of the chips out in the out in the wild and whatnot.
Right.
Right,
Leaked
this is my
benchmarks.
message. If Chris Angelini down at Tom's Hardware is listening, you need to publish your early
Yeah,
leak
you need to get on
benchmark
that.
so we can all know what to
Gorge.
expect.
The
Chris.
gorge and the specs and the stats
Right.
and the benchmarks.
Yeah.
Speaking of unreleased projects, Tom, can you talk about Windows 9?
Oh, yeah. Let me just pull this up. There was a report from ZDNet written by Mary Jo Foley, and she said, separately, I was hearing that Windows 9 might be coming out before the end of this year rather than us waiting until like spring of next year or even later to get it. But in addition to that, she was saying Windows 9 will look and work differently based on the hardware that it's installed on.
Huh.
Like if you install the OS on a desktop or a laptop, you'll get the desktop mode by default, and Metro might not even get installed at all, or the modern interface, I guess they call it. But if you get like a hybrid device, like a Surface Pro or something like that, then you'll probably be getting the Metro installed and running by default.
But what if you have a touchscreen? Like, say you have a touchscreen monitor
Like a touchscreen
I don't
laptop.
know.
or a
Yeah.
touchscreen
Yeah.
laptop.
Like an Acer S7 or something.
It might default to Metro in that case.
It's like cannot compute and then it just explodes in your lap.
Maybe it'll actually give you an option.
Yeah,
That
wouldn't
would-
that
that
be
would be
nice to
nice.
actually give you control?
I know,
Like,
right?
hey, how would
Yeah.
you like to install
But she
this?
says you maybe even be able to turn off the Metro. There might be a toggle thing where you can just
During
never
installation?
again. I never want to see it in any way, shape, or form. And I press the Windows button. I don't want it to happen. So
So according to Paul's write-up, it says it's looking like a spring 2015.
yeah, and then more recently, he wrote that
He wrote that
on the
first.
1st, and now today is the 9th, and just since then I've seen reports that it might be coming out before the end of the year. So, which
Like-
wouldn't be surprising
Like
because
this holiday season.
yeah.
I highly doubt that.
Well, it might be just like November or December. But it wouldn't surprise me because of how, poorly Windows 8 has done. I know they've sold a lot of copies, but I'm under the impression that was because it was bundled with a lot of computers that people were buying. They didn't necessarily want the operating system.
But they just released the Surface 3, and you'd think that if they were going to release Windows 9, it would be with a hardware.
Maybe it was just too early.
It was that's a little early for it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't
saying
know.
I'm calling it now. We're not seeing Windows 9 this year. Let's say.
All right.
It's funny. I was just looking at the story. There's a story saying that Windows 8 is actually losing market share, which is like what?
Yeah,
To
losing
what?
it to Windows
That means
7.
that people are actually
people
going,
are going
back?
downgrading.
Well, because it's what the uptick of sales these days of PCs has been all the people that have been clinging to their computers, their Windows XP boxes that are finally now officially obsolete since there's actually no support at all.
But instead
So
of
all
transitioning
those-
to Windows 8 or 8.1,
They go to Windows 7 because everybody knows Windows 8 is horrible.
right.
So screw that. I'm going to get Windows 7.
Well,
so now Windows
How does that
7.
how does that explain them losing market share though?
Because-
wouldn't that mean that they have there are users out there that have Windows 8 and then they switch?
No,
to
because
something
what
else?
happens is so all these corporations and small businesses, they go okay, we need 100 PCs or we need 50 PCs or we need 10,000 desktops.
Okay.
Okay, what do you want on these? Windows 7. You want Windows 8? It's free. No, we
Yeah, but that-
want Windows 7. No,
But
really.
that wouldn't explain how they're losing market share because
because
they're just not
wha-
gaining.
Well, Windows 8 is it's
Windows 8 is losing
Windows
market
7 is
share.
picking up more market share,
Yeah.
right?
Gotcha.
So
So you-
sales of Windows 8 actually may have been as overall market share may have been going slowly creeping up, and then suddenly all these Windows 7 boxes start to sell, and they're so it flattens out and is going down. So
Maybe we will see Windows 9 this year.
well, okay,
Pretty bad.
so here's the numbers, and I'm going to quote. It's from Seeking Alpha. It's a great website for investors, but Windows 7, according to their numbers, and they're quoting net market share. Windows 7, 50.55%. Okay, the big dog. Windows XP, hey people, it's dead. They don't know. 25.31%.
It's one
how
in 4.
recent are these numbers though?
From June of 2014.
So
Very recent.
Yeah.
1 in 4 people are using an operating system that's been around for
More than 10 years.
yeah.
Yeah, because it's
It's XP's. I can argue with the quality of that operating system.
yeah, and Windows 8.1. I always find it funny that they're broken out differently, but Windows 8.1 is 6.61%. Windows 8 5.93. Honestly, you should combine both of those,
Right.
Right? Because that's
Yeah.
what
So it's
that-
11%, 12%.
11 to 13%, right? OS 10 10.9. Whoo, a whopping
Wow.
3.95%. And Windows Vista 2.95, Linux a very strong 1.74%, and then other 2.96. And for the
Other.
Amiga OS
that's,
people.
That's actually
Yeah.
pretty good for Linux because they're usually floating around 1%. That I wonder if Steam OS had anything to do with that.
I don't know. Yeah, that'll be.
That's a pretty limited
Yeah.
version of Linux.
Yeah, it's
though.
But
not
it-
really,
yeah, it
it's
is
not
a
really
different
there yet.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. All right. Let's move on to the next subject. My subject of the week is the fact that Alienware is getting back into the high-end desktop market, and we put up a news story about how they're actually shipping a unit. It's called Aurora, which ships with an NVIDIA Titan Z, which, as you know, is NVIDIA's top-end dual GPU card. that cost about $3,000. Interestingly enough, it actually seems like a pretty good deal. So the whole entire system.
Ironically.
Considering,
Yeah.
right?
It is a good deal.
Relatively speaking.
Considering.
Because
Hit us with the specs here, Jimmy.
yeah.
Okay, so
The punchline.
So for $3,600, you're getting a Titan Z, and then you're also getting a Intel i7 4820K processor, 8 gigabytes of RAM, a 2 terabyte hard drive, 24x DVD burner, and Windows 8.1. So essentially, if you strip out the Titan Z, you're getting all those components for like $600, which is
And the CPU alone is like $350, I think.
yeah. I don't know if we can actually go out and build a PC that cheap.
You couldn't build that PC for $600. I don't
Right.
think.
And I'm sure, they didn't talk about the case, but I'm sure that's provided as well. The one thing that's kind of weird about that, though, I'm glad that Alienware is back into the high-end desktop market, but it's kind of weird that there's no... So you're buying a $3,000 plus video card, but you don't have an SSD. You're running, like, 2 terabyte hard drive, which is, that's just a very
I guess there was
lopsided build.
There was like a price point that they wanted to hit. They did some research and they were like, according to our polls and our studies, no one's going to pay more than X number of dollars for a system of this configuration. That's sort of
it's
stuff.
also it's configure on demand too, right?
Yeah,
That
I would put an SSD in there.
that
Definitely.
$3,600 gets you to go like, oh, holy with the Titan Z for $3,600, that's a $3,000 video card. Why don't I go? Well, you know what? I want an SSD. Let me just add it. Oh, pretty soon you're at a $4,200 machine.
I'd like to know if you could change the video card to something a little more, a little less expensive.
Yeah, I think, Tom, we were talking about it before, but if you could just swap that, if you could keep that $600 base PC and then swap it with like a 295 X2 for like half that price.
Or a pair of 780s or 780 Ti's.
And then get that SSD in. So you get that SSD, you get a fairly competent, in some cases, better video card for a whole lot less. And then you get the SSD. So
Do you think that's happening, though? We should
I don't know.
go to the
I feel
configurator.
like
Let's experiment.
This is something that NVIDIA is doing in conjunction, I think, with Alienware.
Yeah, it sounds like they have to have some kind of deal in place to be getting. They have to be getting a deal on those cards.
Yeah, to be selling the system at that price.
because I don't think they're getting a deal on the other components enough to justify selling it for basically $600 for the rest of the PC.
Hell, there are some Titan Zs that cost almost as much as that computer. Like there's some Titan Zs that cost like $3,400, right?
Yeah, when
the high-end water cooled.
The hydrocopper ones cost $3,350 a piece.
$3,350. So that's almost as much as the computer essentially. So it's a good deal for what you're getting.
Relatively speaking.
Yeah,
very strange.
But the problem though why would you ever buy a Titan Z except for Micro Tower? Because I just looked at a Falcon Northwest Tiki Z, and it's a 4-inch computer with basically SLI in it because it has a Titan Z. But who the hell else would buy a Titan Z?
It seems like a pretty niche product.
Yeah.
At least at that price, it seems like a pretty niche product.
To me, it's like buying a gold-plated car that has no AC in it. It's like really weird.
Well, that you mean just because of the SSD?
Yeah.
It just seems crazy to buy.
In this day and age, if you're gonna get a computer that costs over $3,500.
Well, I'm right here on the website.
He's kind of got a point. It's like buying like the base model of a Tesla, right? Like, okay, I don't want to spend $100,000 on this car, so I'm gonna buy this $75,000 model instead. But it's like, why would you do that? Just get the better battery, dude.
Yeah.
Oh wait, dude! You can swap out for different cards.
Okay. The other thing is that with 8 gigs of RAM, you're looking at two 4 gigabyte sticks but you have like 8 slots to work with.
Yeah.
Usually that sort of system would have like 4 gigabyte sticks because it's a quad channel motherboard.
Right. Normally I would say like for like a mid-range build, like 8 gigabytes is fine, but this is again, it's really weird.
Yeah.
Like 8 gigabytes is not little necessarily, but it's just like
if you're gonna be for that kind of money for a $3,600 computer.
Yeah, it's just lopsided.
Yeah. Right, it's as people say, it's an unbalanced computer, right?
Right.
It's funny looking at so you can swap out the Titan Z, and it's massive how much you save. Like if you go to a R9 270, it says minus $2,185.
Wow.
But there's nothing on this list. In fact, they do have some SLI Crossfire configurations. Actually, they're all SLI. No, wait, there's one Crossfire. None of them give you anything faster than a Titan Z in performance. So the hottest card here is a pair of 780s. And a Titan Z ought to be faster than a pair of 780s.
Yeah,
A little bit, I guess.
take a look at the benchmarks.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be marginally faster, but it
Yeah.
should definitely be faster.
Yeah. Anyways, moving on to the next topic. Elena, can you sort of tell us about HummingBoard?
Yeah.
The new
So,
Hummingbird model?
so if you guys are Raspberry Pi fans, basically the Hummingbird is kind of a slightly souped-up version of that very bare bones board. It's by an Israeli-based company. They are offering it in 3 different models. One's the low end's $45. There's a $75 model and there's a $100 model. Power adapter and the micro SD card are sold separately. Features a single core 1 gigahertz ARM chip, 512 megabytes RAM. That's the most basic version, but it essentially is more powerful than Raspberry Pi. And so I was pretty excited about this because back when the Raspberry Pis first came out, a buddy of mine and I were both like, oh, that's cool. Like, it's super cheap. We can tinker with that. But he ended up doing it first, and he was using it to build an emulator box. And he's like, dude, it's too slow.
Even for emulators?
That's the thing that puzzles me about these little guys is what is their role exactly? Can you use them as like an HTPC or?
That's what some people are saying. I personally, from what I've been reading and just when I was following it when it first came out, like, it seems a little underpowered for like using it as a home theater box. But like, people are using it in for I don't know, homemade drones and like other like homebrew, very like make kind of projects.
I mean, it is extremely low powered to run because you can run Linux on it to run a sort of desktop experience.
Yeah.
It's definitely way too underpowered for that.
Yeah.
But you're running a drone or something like that. It's sort of perfect.
Yeah, because you don't need that much for it.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty excited about this personally because so Raspberry Pi, I think if you had the 512 megabyte RAM version, you could mostly emulate like Super Nintendo games and that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping with this bump in power, you could possibly get to like the next generation, so like N64 emulation. I don't know.
I can't wait to get 10-year-old technology.
I know, right? It's like I'm all about the gaming here.
But it fits in your pocket, An N64 that literally fits in your pocket. I can't.
Well, yeah. I mean, the little boards. But
I think for me, like with Raspberry Pi, anyways, it seemed like really cool on paper. It's like, oh, it's like $25 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm gonna get one. I'm gonna do all sorts of cool stuff with it. I'm gonna hack it and all stuff. But I don't think anything ever really happened out of that.
It kind of happened with me, where I'm like, I'm gonna place an order. No, I guess I'm not.
It's more like, here, take my $25 with enthusiasm.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't. It just kind of sits there or something.
Yeah. So it'd be kind of cool, also, I think, just to see what people cook up with it if they have a little bit more, firepower under the hood.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny because Intel's sort of trying to get there with their.
But that's those are like completely different products. Like, you get a Nook and you're just like, oh, there's actually a computer in there. You can actually run stuff like
a desktop.
Yeah.
I think we actually did. We did a Nook versus Raspberry Pi head to head.
We did do.
Which one won that?
Gordon was very diplomatic and basically called it there's no clear winner. They're each winners in their own categories.
Well, they are because
I love you both for different reasons.
This is the No BS podcast, man.
Well, it's very much like comparing a Tesla versus a Leaf, right? Tesla is a high performance $75,000 to $100,000 vehicle, and the Leaf is
a car.
$20,000. Yeah,
it's just a car.
It's just a car.
Yeah, and the Leaf you can only use if you have a little canvas bag as you go in Birkenstocks to Whole Foods.
Berkeley Bowl.
It's just
whereas a Tesla is it's
right
intimidating to some people.
Yeah, you roll up.
It earns respect.
I don't know about respect.
Gordon hates the Tesla, by the way.
I have issues with the whole electric car thing personally. I think but let's not talk about that. I think, but no, I mean,
there will be blood if.
But the Nook is clearly it's a hyper. It's you can't get into a Nook for less than $200, $250.
No, it's high.
Well,
like
they have low end. They have Celeron, and they even have Bay Trail versions now. But they're still not.
Yeah. Why would you do that to
But you still have to add
because
your memory and your storage device.
But if you can get a Celeron one, you're looking at total build of maybe 350 if you're lucky.
And you can run a desktop off of it.
And you can really run a desktop off of it. And I have played with Raspberry Pi. It's fun, but it's not really. It's just for experimenting stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't actually.
Or to build
do anything,
robotics.
right?
Or, it has the performance and brains of maybe a roach versus a mouse or something. So
That's a pretty accurate comparison there, I'd say.
Yeah.
Intel does have their Quark thing. I haven't really even kept up on it, but because Intel's like, we got
Quark?
Yeah, it's
yeah.
They're super low end way. They want to get into the Internet of Things.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah,
So
I
they
think Intel just announced some kind of partnership this last week about that.
Right, because everybody wants to make sure their chips power the Internet of Things. So they're pushing these low end, low power,
Low margin.
low cost, low margin devices.
Yeah.
So
Make up on volume.
right.
Did the Chrome boxes ever come out? I think that's what they're called, right? The Chrome
Which
boxes.
one?
They
Yeah,
look like
yeah.
no-
There's
Yeah,
actually
they're
been a
out.
bunch.
Is that Asus that makes those, or
Asus.
We should do like a roundup of those or
HP.
something.
Yeah, we should do a Chrome OS feature at some point. I'm not sure people would have any use for it, but
It's like, what is this? Well, there you go.
it depends. It's they might like it.
well, Jimmy brought the Chromebook to
Hopefully
Brazil.
we can like
I did.
put up the thought balloon here in the podcast and get some feedback on that. People can let us know if they would actually care to read.
Yeah,
about
I mean,
that,
does anybody listening actually have like a Chrome OS device? I mean, do you guys
Yeah.
like it? I don't know. Like, people don't really talk about Chromebooks, Chrome OS very much.
Yeah.
The only thing I've seen of it in the wild is a friend of mine. He actually uses that as his like guest laptop. So like if you're at his place and you want to like check your email, he's like, here's the Chromebook.
Gotcha. I mean, they sell really well on Amazon. The Chromebooks do.
Right.
So-
But, the
Yeah.
interesting thing is x86 Windows 8, believe it or not, tablets are actually edging into that top 10 list. And the Asus Transformer has actually been the top. The last few times
Yeah.
I've checked, the Transformer was the top selling laptop.
We did that roundup of the Windows x86 tablets a few months back, and they were pretty respectable. The Dell Venue 8 Pro, the Lenovo ThinkPad 8, I think it was called.
Yeah.
How much is that Asus?
It's like 300. So it's Chromebook. It's in the Chromebook territory. And the funny thing is Chromebooks keep edging up in price. Have you noticed that? They keep getting pricier. Touchscreen.
I mean, to me, it's kind of
IPS
crazy.
panel.
It's kind of crazy paying like over $300 for what is essentially a web browser.
Yeah, I think it's nuts too. But the thing is, would I rather have a Chromebook or would I rather have a convertible? Like the Transformer or the Acer. That's a tough one.
Some people want to pay more for a higher quality keyboard, more RAM, more storage, faster processor, more cores.
On a Chromebook, though?
Because there is a point at which you're like, oh yeah, I could buy one of these for $200, but it's so kludgy. Eventually, if you don't want to deal with the same race to the bottom that we had with netbooks a few years ago.
Well, certainly the OEMs don't want you to do that. They want you to pay $500 for a Chromebook. But
Whereas Google wants everybody to be paying as little as possible to get people to get the foot in the door, so they can sell you their services and get the ad revenue and whatnot.
Although what's funny is I read something that they're actually going to be. They have announced that Google support for Chromebooks is officially 5 years. Because really, if you think about it, a Chromebook could theoretically last forever, right? As long as they can run a version of Chrome on that.
Yeah.
But they're basically saying after 5 years, we cut you off, supposedly.
Well, those things have basically no moving parts other than like the keyboard.
Right. SSD. I mean, there's nothing.
There's no fans.
LEDs. They're LED backlit. What the hell? You could use a Chromebook for the next 20 years of your life, but that's not exactly a great
that's what
message.
you take with you to your bunker.
Yeah.
Wait, are there no like actively cooled Chromebooks?
I mean,
There
I think
are
they're all
XAs.
actively cooled. You're right. The fan could actually take a dump on you, but I mean, they do run pretty. There's not like they're running that fan all day. So I bet that fan's not even spinning most of the time.
Probably isn't.
Unless you have as much tabs as Jimmy has open, maybe.
But
Jimmy,
it does.
Jimmy likes his tabs.
Yeah, but it does make you wonder if they're doing they're saying the 5-year thing to appease the OEMs.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
Google, you would think
they
they'd
want a
say,
little
"Oh, we'll
more-
support you forever. It'll be the last computer you ever buy." And HP and everybody's like, "Whoa.
They want faster.
What the hell is this shit?"
They want faster turnover.
Right.
Yeah.
I think one thing that I was kind of hoping that Google would announce at this past Google I/O, which happened last month, is Android notebooks. But while they didn't announce that, they did announce that you can use, or I guess you will be able to use, Android apps on Chromebook.
Yeah, on Chrome OS.
Yeah,
You can.
that'd be interesting because it would really help them, I think, because the Chrome OS app store is.
But did you see the presentation though? It's pretty funny because like some of the apps aren't sized for a screen that large. So like you literally have like this phone size screen
like a sliver
for the
of-
app on your desktop for
That's not
like
good.
Chromebook or. So I don't know if they're gonna have to revamp their store kind of the way that Apple did once the iPad came out, and they're like, oh, like this actually needs to be sizable.
Yeah,
sized
they'll
for
probably
tablets.
the app developers probably have to adjust to that on like a case by case basis.
Yeah, but it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
We're just like little window.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand that part. That doesn't.
Well, it gives Chrome OS the access to like these like
It's an app
million
ecosystem.
Yeah, a huge app ecosystem, whereas the Chrome OS app store is
There's nothing.
just
there.
even worse than the Windows app store, as far as what your options are and like the actual size of the library.
Yeah. As much as it pains me, I'd have to agree with that statement from Tom.
So
Yeah, no, it is. It's. Although I think I did the head-to-head in the last issue, they would argue that every website is an app for the Chromebook. So it's got 3 billion apps.
right.
Okay.
It is kind of set up that way with like the homepage, and you have your little, web page icons that kind of make
That's
it look
true,
like apps.
though. I mean, to some degree, if you are running something that has like anywhere from 11 to 14-inch screen, you don't really need a banking app. You just go to the banking website,
Right. And it's a real browser, and it's none of this like, oh my God, I've got to access my banking website on my damn phone.
But
That's
maybe
like
you
crazy.
want a budgeting app, a financial app. Maybe you want spreadsheets.
Yeah,
But
you'd
like
access
Mint
that.
has a web
Right.
interface,
Oh.
so
Or the TurboTax guys and all
Yeah.
those.
But what's nice about Sheets is that you can actually use it offline now, I think.
Well, but do you really want offline? Do you want it?
I would like to have
you
the
still want
option. Yeah,
stuff stored on
agree.
your computer
You know,
anymore.
if you're on the train or some
Your
other
Wi-Fi disconnects.
yeah.
For
if you're on the bus or other public transit where you're not actually actively driving, if you're in the passenger seat of a car and you need to get some work done, you want to be able to just be able to do that without having to rely on internet connection, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the same time, people are buying these. They're snapping up these Chrome OS devices like they're free.
Yeah.
So what the hell's the appeal?
According to Amazon, anyways.
Well,
Yeah, and they're not exactly best friends of Google, right? So.
Well, I mean, their phone or whatever uses Android, like an offshoot of Android, right?
a fork of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how this discussion went from like Raspberry Pi.
yeah, I'm
to-
sure we're boring all the listeners and viewers. Get back to the computer shit, man.
All right, let's go to the reader questions, and this question is about hardcore PC stuff. So David Sando, I think that's how you pronounce it, from Facebook asks, what is the best overall graphics card between the price range of $400 to $500?
$290. I think that's sort of like in between. That price range is actually kind of in between the 290 and the 290X. 290X is on the high end. It's around $500 to $550.
How much is a 780?
780 is I think $550-ish, and then the 780 Ti is $650-ish, $750 in that range.
So I guess if you wanted to go with NVIDIA, you'd probably go with like a 770 in that range.
Well, in that range, you'd go with a 780, maybe a 780 Ti if you could find one on sale.
Yeah, but so 780 is like a little bit like 550, you said?
Well, 780 is I would say $500 to $550.
Okay.
And it's comparable to the 290, and then the 780 Ti is comparable to the 290X. And I would favor the AMD cards in that particular tier because they tend to be.
Did Richard Huddy get to you, Tom?
Wait, no, you do tend to get better performance per dollar, and you get a large.
What about the
he's
DLL
only saying it now
that's
because
in that box, in that black box?
And you also get a larger frame buffer. We get a 4 gig frame buffer instead of 3 gigs. Although
he's
there
only
are,
saying that because Richard Huddy was on the last podcast.
There are some 6 gigabyte 780s that you can get now. Maybe 6 gigabyte 780 Ti. I don't know exactly.
Yeah, I mean AMD does give you a better price, right? I mean they're pretty price competitive there.
Yeah,
A few months ago, it used to be totally crazy when the Bitcoin craze was in the other coins. You couldn't find a 290 or 290X for less than like, I don't know, $750. The 290X was floating, I think at one point like $1,000. In which case, I wouldn't even think about it. I'd go with a 780 or a 780 Ti. You could practically get two 780s for the price of one 290X at a certain time a few months ago.
Right.
So,
All right. Next question comes from Benji Smith. He asks, what is the best gaming laptop for around $1,000? So I'd say in that price range, that's not a lot to work with, but I'd say in that price range, something from like Lenovo, like the Y series. I think they started at around 800. They go up to like low thousands, like 1,200, 1,300. So I'd say look there.
yeah, Jimmy's our gaming laptop expert. He's the one who does pretty much all the reviews in that department. So
Yeah.
he's the one to ask.
I'd say in that price range, check out Lenovo stuff. And most of them, you can sort of configure it to your liking. So, Wesley Rourke asks, do you think there's going to be a SSD price war? And which companies do you think will come out on top?
Those were the deepest pockets and the biggest war chest, right? So
Samsung seems to be doing well enough that they don't even really need to compete too hard on price. Their 840 Pro has been a very good performer. Their 840 Evos doesn't cost as much, but has a nice software package. They just came out with the 850 Pro. I've seen some benchmarks for that make it look like another very nice SSD. I think if we're going to see price competition, it's probably going to come from Crucial, among others, because they're already very aggressive on their prices, like the MX 100 series. I've seen those for as much as $50 less in the 250 gigabyte range compared to like the 840 Evo. Who else? There's SanDisk as well. They actually ship a ton of SSDs around the world, mostly in laptops. So a lot of people don't think about them in the desktop space, but they actually do move a lot of units in general. I think they told Josh, our previous storage expert, that SanDisk said they sell more SSDs than any other storage device company in the world. I don't know how true that is. But
I think that came up. Should we look it up just to make sure we're not spreading disinformation?
I'm just saying. I'm just repeating a claim. I'm not saying that the claim is.
Oh, I know.
You know.
But we all have
But also
internet-connected
situations.
things here.
Right.
So we can look.
Internet situations have changed, right? So, yeah.
At the same time, when it comes to price, you have to be careful to watch out for some units whose synchronous DRAM has been replaced with asynchronous DRAM.
PNY got
Yeah, we've seen
Yeah.
a couple units from PNY, and Kingston was another one. Their V300 SSD now, I think it's called. They replaced their DRAM, and the asynchronous stuff is apparently much slower in most operations, a lot slower. It's still fast, relatively speaking, compared to a mechanical drive, because all SSDs have very fast access times.
Okay.
But something with asynchronous DRAM tends to have much slower transfer speeds, and you're talking about moving around several gigabytes of data, rather than just booting up Windows. So
Yeah, it would be nice if we got, going back to the PNY thing, it would be nice if we actually got, both samples.
yeah,
I don't know how possible that is. But PNY is saying that their asynchronous SSDs are still up to par. That's their official word. That's what they told us.
Right. Although it's a bummer that people are going to forever. It's always dangerous to play those games because people
don't
are
forget.
always going to go. They never forget. That's like for years. It takes 5 years to get over that kind of stuff.
yeah, which is a long time in computer hardware.
I haven't found any good market data, but I would guess that the big dogs would be Samsung and Intel. So
Yeah,
and
Toshiba also makes a whole lot of SSD technology. They also sell their own SSDs, but I think they're mostly on the manufacturing side rather than on the retail side.
Okay, moving on. Robert Card.
wait a minute. Old
Oh.
data. Actually, SanDisk, of course, 2-year-old data, but SanDisk was actually number 2 behind Samsung.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
So, sorry, what is the pecking order according to that?
Samsung. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe it's actually OCZ. I mean, this can't be right.
Yeah, Samsung manufactures a lot of its own stuff. They design their own controller. I think they manufacture their own DRAM. So that's one of the reasons why people why the retail purchasers like using their stuff, because they know it's all coming from under one roof, where the company that's selling it is intimately familiar with all the technology that's under the hood.
Yeah, it's whoever owns the DRAM is the one that.
Yeah.
Okay. Robert Carter asks, I'm interested in knowing what is the best overall mouse and keyboard for PC gaming.
Wow.
I think that's up to personal preference.
Yeah,
That's
I would say
usually
so.
dependent on preference.
Yeah.
There are some mice that tend to be better than the others. The Razer Death Adder has been a pretty good mouse to choose from for several years. They've come out with different versions of it. Laser version, optical version, one that lights up, one that doesn't. But it's basically the same technology. A Logitech G400 and G500 have also had pretty good reputations. Let's see, SteelSeries also. Drawing a blank now.
What are you using at home?
At home, I'm actually using. It's called a Sentinel Advanced 2, but I can't remember the name of the manufacturer. But I've also been playing around with the Corsair mice, which I like. I like their M65 or M95 mouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm using Razer stuff. Razer Taipan. I think that's how you pronounce it. Just a regular wired mouse. I know Alex Castle, our peripheral reviewer, he really liked the Razer Ouroboros.
Yeah.
Ouroboros.
And before he
Not
liked
sure.
the rat.
The rat. Right.
He really likes the
Yeah.
highly
The
configurable mice.
Yeah, modular mice.
Right. And I think this is, we can't tell you what works for your body. That's like us telling you which coffee or condom to
Right.
buy. You really have to try them yourself.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's no real store that I don't think you can walk into and just sort of like play
Yeah,
around,
that is
right?
a bummer, isn't it?
Like with mechanical keyboards too. It's like, how do you? I mean, it's like,
Right.
sure, you can sort of explain like what you can try to explain what
There-
like a red switch, feels like or whatever, but it's like you can't
Yeah.
really know until you actually.
There are switch testers that you can buy where it's just a cluster of like four to six keys, and you can just tap on them until you get the feel and sound that you.
Yeah, but who wants to buy something
Right.
to test
Yeah,
it?
I know.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty
But
tough.
As far as specific keyboard recommendations, there's a number from Cooler Master and Corsair. Logitech also makes a nice one, but you really have to know what type of switch that you prefer, because there's brown, red, blue, black, and a few others, and they all feel different when you type on them. They all sound different when you type on them.
Elena has a keyboard recommendation, doesn't she? Aren't you going to recommend your favorite keyboard?
I mean, the one that I have to use as like
That's
someone
like
who's
the-
broken.
Yeah.
The mount.
No, not that one.
But
You were saying you love the K95 or K60 RGB,
Oh, the
right?
the RGB one.
K75. I forget what that.
Oh, are we allowed to talk about that?
Yeah, they've announced it.
Yeah.
You've seen it many times.
Yeah.
It's very pretty, and
Yeah.
it's kind of like your own personal light show.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, you got to check out the Corsair's upcoming RGB keyboards. Every key individually lit, and you can change the color.
And
Mhm.
Yeah.
individually reactive also to,
Right.
to your key
so
presses.
it ripples out.
Yeah,
if
it
you
ripples
press.
out. You can do. I think you can do trailing stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's
Right.
going to be like a Stoner Paradise keyboard.
Yeah, in fact, they had one pattern where it's a stone. It's like it just needs to come with a bag of Doritos, right? But they have also a mouse that also has an individually lit LED, and they have one pattern where it looks like there's a wave that kind of goes across the keyboard, and then it bounces against the mouse, and it goes back.
And the keyboard's highly programmable in terms
Yes,
of lighting
you
effects
can.
and everything.
I think at one point when we were playing with it, we actually had to do like red and green, so it kind of looked like Christmas on the
Right.
keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and it's amazingly affordable too, because I really thought it would be like a $300 keyboard, but was it $190 or something like that?
Something like that.
Yeah.
We were
Just-
talking to them at one point when they were working on a prototype. They're like, yeah, we hope to get under 250.
Right.
I was like, that sounds pretty high for keyboard, but I didn't say anything. I was like, maybe they'll work it out, and it turns out that
I think it's $190 for the K95 too. I think the
yeah.
K75 is cheaper. The non macro
the one
MMO
without the large cluster of macro
Right.
keys on one side.
Yeah.
And I was actually talking to another peripheral manufacturer about Corsair's keyboard, and I won't mention who they were, but they basically said there is no way they're going to be able to get that for under $300.
Right.
It's just not going to happen. And I know that I believe that what Tom, you were saying that the keyboard, their newest prototype is actually not as bright as
Yes.
what they showed us to begin with.
Well, the one that they showed us most recently was, I think it was a pre-production model at this point.
Well, not in pre-production. That was just more of a proof of concept, I think. Like the keys didn't even.
No,
spring
but
back
Tom's
up?
talking about the most recent.
Oh, the one we
yeah,
have.
it didn't. It wasn't
Yes.
the lighting wasn't nearly as
Yeah.
bright.
So maybe they made some compromises, and that's how they got
Yeah,
the
they
price
probably had to because the prototype was getting plugged into like a laptop
Yeah, power
down.
battery.
It's like a laptop charger.
Yeah,
That thing was, I was looking at the
So-
video I took of it. Man, that thing was so bright. It
it
was
was
just,
super bright.
it would light up your
But
room.
They're only going over USB 3 now, so I guess you have to make some compromises.
No,
'cause-
USB. They said they don't require you to have USB 3 power for it.
huh.
So they're actually,
Yeah, that's
they've got the
then-
power requirements way
It
down.
sounds like they're only pulling a few watts then, which explains why they're not
Right.
all that bright.
Yeah.
It was plenty bright when we were playing with it in a dark room, though.
Yeah.
It
It's
was-
plenty
yeah.
bright in the dark room, which is where you want it. But
Right.
the other one was so bright in the daytime.
There's
was
apparently the keys are a little opaque because they wanted the lettering and the numbering to be visible even when the lighting was disabled on the keyboard. So I can understand that.
Yeah.
Cool. Moving on to the next question. Chris Schmidt asks, would it be possible to combine the capabilities of the Oculus Rift with Google Glass?
Why
You
would,
mean wearing them at the same time?
but
I'm
the
trying to
question I'm
visualize
having
that.
is, why would you want to?
So
I think it's fair to say that's a super douchey move. I think okay.
So I'm not exactly sure where he's coming from, but I think what he means to say is like, could you somehow sort of blend the two?
So like you could
Um,
say to it like,
so you
okay, Rift, like record that, like
Maybe he's talking about
Augmented reality. I
like
think.
a heads-up display that acts like Google Glass while you're wearing Oculus Rift. Maybe that's what he's.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, what would you get from combining the two?
So here, like one thing that I saw that was kind of interesting from somebody who modded a Oculus Rift developer unit is what they did is they have like the Oculus Rift they're wearing on their foreheads, and then they mounted I think like two like Logitech small webcams or something like that in front, and then that would send like a live feed back to their goggles or whatever, and so you would essentially see what the camera sees, right? And then your question might be like, well, why would you want to do that? Because essentially you'd be seeing what you would normally see without all
Right,
that
and
shit.
the whole
What is
point
this
of
like?
Oculus
Is this like?
to-
Is this like a prototype of Jordy's visor? Like,
Sounds like it.
you know? what I
So then what he ended up doing, and there's like a YouTube video of this, and I'll see if I can pull up the link. But if I remember correctly, what this guy did was he then projected like I think it was like a virtual person into the room.
Oh.
So then he was like staring. He was just basically looking around the room that he was in, but then there was like a virtual person in front of him that wasn't actually there.
Hmm.
So that's
kind of eerie.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like maybe you could. I mean, that's augmented reality, right? That's essentially projecting things that in front of
Yeah.
you that aren't there.
So
Yeah.
like a portable wearable holodeck.
But what is the glass part of that?
Yeah, like
What the hell does the Google Glass do? What do you need that for?
because Google Glass primarily.
I think
is just
lots of people who actually haven't tried Google Glass actually think it's like augmented reality. It's really not. Really, what it is like I've tried it on before, and it's really like this tiny cube that just like projects light. There's light that projects into this tiny cube at the top right of your eye, and you can like watch movies and read emails, and that's pretty much it. But I think if you actually go back and like watch Google's promo videos of Google Glass, like the original one, people are like really excited about it. It looked like there were arrows pointing at where you should go, like on the street.
Right.
That's what they were sort of selling it as.
Augmented reality.
Eventually.
Augmented reality.
They're way far
Yeah.
away from that. But
So I mean, both of these devices can't do that, but I mean, just what that guy did is sort of get in there. That's the
Yeah.
sort of idea. So it'd be kind of interesting. I don't know. It we might not see anything of it, but I guess the potential's there.
yeah, and I do know Facebook and Google, being best friends that they are working to combine Google Glass and Oculus Rift now, I would imagine.
all
I'm
in
not
service
actually-
of your
Oculus
privacy.
Rift?
Huh?
All in service of your privacy.
All in service of your privacy, yes.
Yes.
But no, I'm obviously making that up since Google and Facebook hate each other.
Right. Maybe it'd be called Oculus Glass or Google VR or something. Anyways, Robert Wiley, I'm not sure, asks, what is a good cost-effective setup for gaming? I'm not talking about running the CryEngine at full 1080p, but something a guy balling on a budget can put together to play games on, and actually have them fast enough to have fun.
Well, it's hard to say without having a specific budget to work with. So I would recommend that he looks at the back page of the magazine where we have we every month we put in 3 recommended builds.
It's on the website as well.
Yeah, and it's on the website, and it rotates. There's a $750 budget build. It includes Windows. It doesn't include a monitor or a keyboard or a mouse. So if you already have a copy of Windows, or you have a copy of Windows, then you can shave $100 off of that. And there's also a $1,200-ish, $1,250 tier, and a $2,500-ish tier, and then a $4,000 tier. We sort of...
Oh, you went with the 4,000.
We still are. We're
Wow.
kind of rotating them around. I think starting next month, I hope to shave that down to 3 builds. Just budget, mid-range, and higher end.
Well, yeah, and occasionally we'll do a crazy build, I think, probably. Just a high-end build. But you could, honestly, you can get a pretty nice gaming box these days for well under $1,000, I think.
And
You're safe.
he can also ask on our forums, because we have people who regularly respond to those questions with detailed parts lists and whatnot, based on budgets and what you think you're going to be using the computer for.
What do you have a pick for a $200 video card? What do you think? Like a 760
Ti?
I have
760s? How much are 760s or the?
Those are closer to 250. I've seen them
Right.
getting down to 200 after a rebate, but those are sometimes those are models that I wouldn't recommend, or they're like reference cards sometimes.
Mid-200s.
Yeah.
So but you could. So let's say your budget is $250 for your GPU. You could
That's
do
a 760.
So you could do what FX 4300 or the new Pentium part if you want to overclock it. Pentium K part. Well, that's not the real name of it. I'm making that up.
Right.
And then you could, what else? 8 gigs RAM. Yeah.
Yeah.
SSD.
250. You could.
120 gigabyte at least, right?
Yeah, I guess. it's tough to squeeze a SSD into that cheap a box, but
Yeah, but just 128. It's
yeah,
manageable.
that's true.
Yeah.
But would you rather take that $100 you're spending on the SSD and put that into getting a 770 or the next,
I think at this point, man, you got to go with SSD.
Yeah.
It depends on what you primarily want to use your computer for.
At least go with
Right.
64 gigabyte SSD at least.
Well, he's a
Just for
gamer,
the
but I
just
don't
for
know
the
though.
OS.
You do 64 gig SSD, you're like, man, I'm out of space already.
It's pretty tiny. You pretty much
Yeah.
that's pretty much space for Windows and nothing
Well,
else.
if you're only using
Yeah,
it
my
as a boot
experience.
disk,
Just for
only.
it's worth it for the boot up times, I think.
Yeah, if
I
you-
don't
If
know.
you use it only as a boot disk and then you pair it with a secondary hard drive.
But then it's a pain in the ass because you're always dealing with emptying it out and moving stuff around.
Yeah.
and it's just,
What
yeah.
are you putting on there if you're using it just as a boot disk, though?
Porn, lots of.
Yeah, you can't wait for that to load.
So like a 64 gigabyte SSD will cost you $50, man.
But to me, 64 is well under the.
I'd rather just
No.
pay
Even
50 to
120
60
I'd
for a
rather-
1
even
terabyte.
120, 128, they're not that expensive.
Yeah.
Let me
That's,
see.
They're
that's
still
tough.
under
128, okay, maybe. 64 is no.
Okay,
That's-
so 128 it's like $70.
Yeah, it's still under
65
100.
bucks.
You're looking at $1,000 PC. You're going to spend $70 on. It's tough.
And and
If
$1,000
that gets you to the next from a 760 Ti to to whatever and R whatever.
But this particular question though, he said that as long as it looks good, he's not looking to max all his settings out either.
So,
So, there's some
yeah.
wiggle room for
All
performance.
right.
So
Okay,
high
that's
at
fair.
cheapest build, high at 1080p.
Right. Okay,
Yeah.
that's all right. You made your point. I guess I could do the 64 gig SSD. That's
No, actually, it makes more sense to go to 128 because it's only like $10 more. You
okay.
only double the storage.
128 is doable.
Yeah. The last question and probably the most important comes from Sam Hill. He asks, "Do you like mac and cheese?"
I
Well,
like the dish.
Are we talking like Trader Joe's will give you a heart attack? There's 4 kinds of cheese in this mac and cheese.
I'll
or
leave
like-
it. I'll leave it up to
Annie's.
interpretation.
Yeah, Kraft powdered mac and cheese.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's actually
Homemade.
really underrated.
You think so?
I like
Yeah.
mac and cheese, but like there's variants that sometimes I don't like.
So I have kids, so we eat a lot of Annie's mac and cheese.
Yeah.
And I actually do like real Kraft fluorescent orange mac and cheese myself with tuna mixed in. That's a tuna casserole, I've been told. But there's actually, now get this, in Oakland, there's a restaurant called, I think it's called the Home Room, and it is highfalutin mac and cheese. Like
Really?
you go there,
Oh, yeah,
and
they're-
all they serve is mac and cheese.
They have
Really?
restaurants like that in San Francisco too.
Isn't that crazy though?
I know.
I think there are like fancy cereal restaurants or something like that.
No, really? I had that idea like 15 years ago.
Is you really?
Yeah, like you'd go there,
You
there'd
missed
be
your
all
boat.
the cereals you want, and it's unlimited on the cereal, but you kill people on the milk. It's like, whoa. Your refill on milk will be $7.
No,
This
you
is
know,
organic, free range,
Goat milk.
No, because you can't eat the cereal without the milk.
grass fed.
So I was actually in New York City a couple months ago, and I went to it was kind of a hipster place, and they did exactly what you said. They charged a lot for a glass of milk that was like cereal flavored milk. And
There's probably a cow in the kitchen.
It was like $5 for a glass of milk.
Right.
That was like cinnamon toast crunch flavor or
Right.
something.
Wow.
Yeah,
Or
you
could
could
just
you
buy a
could
gallon of milk and a box of cinnamon toast crunch and just
$5
pour
for a
it.
glass of milk. That's when someone needs to
See,
punch in the
it
mouth.
was it was a lot. I
You
was
know
like,
the
what?
problem with the world is it's not the idea. People always go like, well, Sergey and whoever, Larry Page at Google, they had this idea, or Bill had this idea with They didn't. It's not that they had the idea, or Steve had the idea. Woz did all the work, but it's not like they had the idea. Because every fucking stoner has the idea. I had that idea 15 years ago.
When you were smoking out.
They actually followed through and did it. That's the
we had an
secret.
entire restaurant
Made it.
just for cereal.
I know.
Yeah. It's
And then
quite-
I'm going to have a phone, and then it's going to be a touch, and there will be no buttons. Dude, that's awesome.
all right, let's move on to our editor's picks. My pick is I've been playing around with Steam's streaming service.
Oh.
In-home
streaming.
streaming. It's free. So like what I'm doing is I have my my desktop, and then I'm streaming it to like my notebook, which is it's running on integrated graphics, but I'm playing like high-end desktop PC games, and the lag time is actually pretty good. And I just hooked up an Xbox controller to it, so I gave essentially new life to my old laptop. And
Cool.
You can sort of move anywhere throughout the house, so it's quite convenient. Anyways,
What were you playing?
I was playing controller-friendly games. Like I'm trying to work on Bastion, my backlog. It's quite an old game, but
Well, it's like,
yeah.
it's like we came out like 2
Well, that's
years
a,
ago.
that's
years ago.
I think that was 2011.
Was it?
Yeah,
Time
think so.
flies.
3 years ago.
3 years.
That's like 30 years ago in like real time.
Yeah.
Elena, do you want to go next?
Sure. I'm just super curious how it worked. That's why because like
So
Bastion's
you
a
just
smaller,
get on the same Wi-Fi.
Well, no, because
and then-
Bastion's a smaller, it's an indie game. So I was wondering if you had tried any like AAA titles or something that actually is going to take a lot more compute power.
I don't know if it actually
You should
matters.
try
It's just-
Crisis. Or
Just go for the big guns right away.
I don't
Why
know
not?
if that actually matters. I don't think it makes a difference if you're running like Tetris versus Crisis. I think it's just streaming the image over.
I think it's probably the resolution that matters the most, because like
Yeah,
as
probably
far as
resolution.
bandwidth going over the network.
Right,
Yeah.
right. It's all like well, first of all, it's running natively on your desktop computer,
Right.
and then beyond that, it's just up to your Wi-Fi at home.
Okay.
Or your physical Ethernet.
Right.
That'd probably be better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Faster.
Well, my pick's also video game based. My pick is actually Valiant Hearts, which came out I think last week.
Valiant Hearts, I
Was
don't know
last
about
week?
that
No, I
one.
think it was the 26th, so it's maybe almost 2 weeks ago. It's a little indie style game, not actually by indie dev. It's Ubisoft that did it. I think it's their Montpellier team, the same team that did Rayman Legends, and it's just this little indie style game, kind of like action, sort of like.
Is it like a
Quasi-
2D side scroller too?
Yeah, it's 2D side scrolling. Has some interesting like use of depth though in the different settings. It's based on World War I. It's very interesting.
I think I've heard about this one.
Yeah, it's very interesting because they did it in this comic book style.
Yeah, I'm looking at
And they
screenshots
kind
now.
of sanitized a lot of it, right? So you can't really kill anyone in the game, and like no one
You just hug
actually
them to death instead.
no one actually dies. Like if you throw a grenade at someone, they panic and they
They
run
just
away.
take a nap.
Right. long nap, 6 feet under. And it's a really interesting game because it's not perfect. I mean, I'll tell you up front that honestly, if I were to personally score it, I probably would give it like a 7.5, somewhere in the 7 range. But it's just interesting because it's such an emotional kind of story, but it's like this horrific setting.
Mm-hmm.
So you got this like really pretty game, like super emotional, but like all the parts don't perfectly come together. And yet when you're done, you're like, that was worth my time. So
Cool.
I think it's worthwhile.
Cool.
It kind of reminds me of Gone Home, I guess. I don't know if you've played that game.
Not yet. It's on my list.
Yeah. Cool. And Tom?
My pick is also a game. It's called Divinity: Original Sin.
Oh yes.
And it's sort of a quote unquote old school RPG, isometric, in the vein of Baldur's Gate or Fallout, but this is fantasy, unlike Fallout. Very long game in a good way. Lots of world detail. Lots of detail in your combat options. Like you can create a rain spell, or you can use a rain spell to create puddles of water on the ground, and then cast a lightning bolt at the water to electrify all the puddles. Or you can
It's very Bioshock-ish.
you can cast a spell to put a puddle of oil on the ground, and then a fire spell to light the puddle on fire. So there's a lot of environmental reactivity. This is produced by Larian, who also did the earlier Divinity games. You can pick it up for $40 on Steam and on GOG.com. GOG.com is the version is DRM free.
Yeah, by CD Projekt guys, I believe.
Yeah, the same guys who are doing
The Witcher.
Yeah, The Witcher. So yeah, definitely recommend taking a look at it if you're a fan of. Also, the combat is turn-based, which might turn some people off.
Is that a pun?
Might, but it's turn-based as opposed to happening in real time. So you can go back and forth at your own pace to figure out what you want to do on any given turn.
Yeah. When Tom says not for the turn-based folks,
Yeah.
or people who don't like it, he's really talking about me.
Yeah.
Because we had to talk about this.
Oh, you don't like turn-based?
I'm not a
But
huge fan,
unlike
though.
D&D, your classes there are no classes. You can very much customize exactly what type of character you want to have. You can have a warrior type guy who can also cast spells, or a rogue who can cast spells, or a wizard who has rogue-like abilities. Sort of mix and match how you want. So
Cool.
Yep.
Gordon?
Yeah, I'm picking a new mobile app. It's written by this new company. It's called Ungsoft, and it's
God.
it's an image processing app that is going to be the next generation of kind of cool hip things that you would do on your mobile device. It has these new effects. One is take your head off. So when you take the picture, in order to simulate that kind of 1970s rangefinder look where they can't really compose it right because of parallax, it will cut your head off, sometimes above or below the eyes, just
nice.
a little bit of your
Nice.
head. And then it also has some other focus of effects. One is out of focus. The other one is badly exposed. And it's a really cool app.
Is it going to have color, or is it black and white?
Yeah, but I mean it'll be like
There'll be some sepia, I
there will-
assume.
yeah, there'll be black and white, but it'll be like incorrectly exposed kind of like thing, or not enough fixer. There's all kinds of really cool kind of hip features that simulate retro kind of fucked up photos that people used
Using
to take.
film that's out of date.
Yes, should have
Expired film.
Should have expired film look. Yes, yes,
This reminds me of my photography class in college.
yeah.
Polaroid
Any-
decomposition is my favorite filter.
Yeah, my favorite is when you get the black and white. You get the film on the because I always like the plastic reels, and because I could never use the cage reels, the steel reels, and then your hands would get wet, and that shit it was just fucked.
Yeah, it smelled like vinegar. And
Well, no,
everything.
because the film would get wet, and then there's nothing I can do. There's no way you can get that film into the reel, and it's like it's already been pulled out of the canister. So what are you gonna do? Your hands in the bag, or it's like you're screwed.
Yeah.
So people are probably going to be like Googling this, like Ungsoft.
Yeah, Ungsoft.
If
yes,
people-
it's a new up and coming app.
People don't know Gordon's just bullshit.
The same person who made the restaurants where you eat cereal. Yes. You know what? Potato chip restaurant. Fuck that, right?
You know, you shouldn't
That's
say
a new
you shouldn't.
thing. Cereal
You know
restaurant. Nothing
somebody's-
but nothing but
you know
potato
someone's
chips.
gonna do this now.
You shouldn't say this stuff live. You know?
I'm a futurist.
You're like the Adam Carolla of food.
Just nothing but potato chips. Like hundreds of brands of potato chips.
There's probably a place in Ireland that
You can have them in like dispensing silos, like you see at Jelly Belly stores.
Yeah, you got to keep them fresh, though. There has to be a device to keep them fresh.
You pull up this little thing, and it all comes out into a bag.
And then be vacuum packed.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That actually doesn't sound like a bad idea. I just like to sample different chips.
Right.
Yeah.
So
it wouldn't be like a restaurant, though. It would be more like a candy store.
Whoa! What are you talking
Like
about?
more
No, it's it's a restaurant. It's a sit down place. It's high end.
I hope there's good sauces. All right, let's delve into Gordon's rant of the week.
Wait, you didn't have your pick of the week. Did you pick your pick?
Yeah, he started.
Oh,
His
right.
pick is your
Streaming.
rant.
If I can get this going. Hold on. Why aren't you cooperating? Damn you, Windows Media Player.
It'll all be fixed in post production. Don't worry about it.
What's the problem? You keep on switching laptops, and it's like
Yeah. All right. Is it gonna play? I don't know why. Damn it! Recommended settings.
We can just go right
Oh,
into
boy.
it and put in the.
Here we go. I think.
Gordon's going to present his rant of the week.
Who's the dumbass who came up with this idea? And what kind of a fucking loser? You're wasting your fucking time. Total fucking loser. I hate all this shit.
what happened to Clark's intro? that
Maybe I'm going retro.
He's using the retro thing though. Oh, so I am serious. I am actually going to start. I haven't programmed anything since 1987, right?
1980.
1987. I mean, I haven't written anything since then. So I'm going to start. I'm going to start doing programming for Android. And I've come up with it's a new application idea, and basically it's an app that just randomly makes iPhone sounds, like iPhone text messages, iPhone ringing sounds. So it'll just randomly, like every 3 or 6 or 7 minutes or 9, and it'll just make like an Apple ringing sound, and then it just stops.
I assume this is for meetings.
And this is so that everybody with the fucking iPhone goes like, oh, I just got a text message, and they check. It's like, oh no, it's not me. And of course, I have an Android phone, so I was like, well, it's not me. I have an Android phone, right? And I say this, I'm bringing this up. Obviously, that's also bullshit. I'm making this up because the company has, in its infinite wisdom, said, oh, everybody gets cell phones, right? Of course, they said everybody gets cell phones because, like, hey, you got your cell phone. We can call you all the time, right? But they gave everybody iPhones, so brand new iPhones. So now Jimmy and so all of us, we have our iPhones, right? And the fucking iPhone is like miles behind Android in so many ways. And I'm not saying that because I'm just an Apple hater, but like the basic functionality of like the back button is not there, right?
There isn't one.
There's no fucking back button.
Not a universal one anyway.
Or just changing the ringtone, right? On my Android, I download an app, Zedge. It's like, oh, I'll just go download a couple of ringtones or whatever. Or I just take whatever song I have on the phone or whatever. On the iPhone, the only way to change the fucking ringtone is to hook it up to iTunes. I mean, there's no other way. In fact, I downloaded Zedge on this thing, and it says, no, sorry, you got to hook it up to iTunes to change your ringtones. What kind of stupid shit is that?
Yeah.
Are you guys also not angry? You guys are all pissed off earlier. I see. No one wants to step over that line. Huh?
No, we just people complain when we interrupt your rants.
No, it's fine. It's interactivity. Just
So, I mean, I actually haven't. So this is my first Apple device ever. Believe it or not, I've never owned.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to think that
I love it. You're switching over. It's so beautiful.
Why you putting words in my mouth, man?
I'm just saying because that's what iPhone people say. Apple people say it.
I have issues with it, but at the end of the day, to me, it's just sort of a word phone. It's just a phone. Okay, so
that's bullshit. You should have heard him earlier.
No, I will explain what I don't
Tim
like about
Cook is not going to come here and choke you. Okay, he's not going to do it. If he were going to do it, He would have
Unless you
fucking.
like that sort of
they
thing.
would have like hit me with that polonium pill years ago. But no, they're not going to do it. You don't have to be scared, Jimmy. They're not going to get you. You don't have to be scared.
So the thing is that I'm not angry because I've already made my peace with this a long time ago. Back when I first got my first iPod Touch, I was like, "What the hell is this?" And so now I'm the one that you guys all come to, where
Right,
you're
that's
like,
true.
"Why isn't this working?" I'm like, "Go settings, go here,
Right.
right? It's done. You can have it back now." I'm gonna go and use my Android phone.
But I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Like the whole back button thing.
Yes,
to me,
I definitely think that.
it's like Apple's refusal to put a right fucking mouse button
I
on the
agree.
mouse, right? And you know they're just doing that because they're being assholes. They're like, you know what? We're never going to do it. Never going to do it. You have to kill us all before we put the
Why
right mouse
would you
button
go
on the
back
phone.
when you can just go home?
Just,
I think
yeah,
Apple's is like, why go back when you can go
oh
forward?
my God, this is awesome. We'll apply the same Apple technology to video games. Okay, I'm stuck at this level. I don't know. What do I do here? Oh, go back to the beginning and start the fuck over again. Oh, really? No, you're kidding, right? No, really. That's Apple technology. Start the fuck over again, right? You push the fucking back button. There's no back button. You push the start button. You go back to the fucking home screen. What?
I needed to get on my my home's Wi-Fi network last night, and the password is by design. It's long, lots of different special characters and this and that. And I was like, I'm not going to type this fucking thing in. I would just like to put this into a document or like an encrypted file. Put that file on the phone.
It seems like more work than typing on
No,
it.
listen. Access this file on the phone. Copy the password and paste it into.
Are you serious?
Tom, do you know how much extra work that is? You could just pair the damn thing with a Bluetooth keyboard.
Yeah, but I'm trying to access the Wi-Fi network. I need to enter a Wi-Fi password.
No, I'm
that's
saying
right.
He's
You
just-
you
can't
sent me
just
the
type it in.
email, Gordon. I'm forwarding you this email.
But that
Can you
doesn't-
type this into an email and send it back to me in a
that's what they're
text
saying.
message?
That's what they're saying. You can't put the file on your phone.
But
No,
no.
you email the document to yourself and then open it up in your email.
But Tom, you would just have to pair it with the fucking Bluetooth keyboard.
No, but I'm not accessing Bluetooth. I'm accessing my
Wi-Fi.
No, I'm
my
saying
Wi-Fi.
that if you, what I'm saying is that you guys have all complained about
The keyboard, it's horrible.
the virtual keyboard.
Yeah, I
right?
hate it.
So all you would have to do, I mean, I haven't actually tested this, but
No,
in
this is
theory,
like- this is
all
like
you
a
would have to do is pair a fucking Bluetooth keyboard.
This is a
full-size keyboard with-
long pain in the ass password. I did not want to type in again. I just wanted to.
Tom was like, I'd rather hack into the Pentagon.
I just want to copy and paste. And for some reason, it took like 2 fucking hours for me to figure
2
out.
hours.
For me to figure out. No, if
I ain't
if
typing
you
in those
have-
16 letters. Fuck
If you
that shit.
have something that you need to copy and paste that you cannot type in.
What do you mean you typed it in the first time?
No,
Not on
I
the
didn't.
phone, though.
I didn't. I generated
That's what I'm
it.
saying.
I
You just-
generated the
you
password
just have
using
to
a
fucking
password.
Use a full-size
I used
keyboard.
a password generator.
He's being more stubborn than I am.
This is like a 64.
Even Gordon's like,
This is
holy
like a
shit,
64
man.
That's pretty serious.
This is a 64 character password. It would take me like 5 minutes to type it in.
Seriously.
wow.
All I wanted to
Versus
do.
4,
2
8,
hours.
7.
All I wanted to do was copy and paste it.
64 characters? My God.
Yeah.
Dude, that's crazy.
I was just. It's a password generator. You can do whatever you want. The problem is when you have to type it in manually, it's a pain in the ass.
5
So what I'm
minutes versus 2 hours. I just
But
want to point
it should
out.
not have taken 2 hours. If this was Android, you plug the phone into your computer, you put the file on your phone, you open up the document, you copy it, you paste, and you're done. Like 30 seconds
Oh god.
at most, and it's over.
But what I don't understand is why people say this shit is so fucking great. There's just so much wrong with iOS.
If I try to do that on the Apple phone, you have to use iTunes. Get the app that recognizes that file. Know which app it is that recognizes that file. Download it, install it, go into iTunes with the phone plugged in. Pick that app, find the file on your computer, open the file, link it to the app. Go to your phone, go into the app on your phone, and then it will see the file, and then you open it.
At some point,
You
did
go tell him, Tom. You tell him.
Did you press the home button and it told you to go start the fuck over
and they
again?
were like, no, you don't need to go through all the steps. You email the document to yourself. And I was like, why the fuck should I have to do that? Why should I have to email something that is right here on my computer that is sitting right in front of me? It's ridiculous. That's the point I'm trying to make.
See, Tom is legitimately angry, I think.
There is a lot of hate in this room now.
Jimmy is scared. Elena's already like, fuck it.
You guys are just stepping in. No, it's actually really
64. Are
it
you
is,
like
it is complicated?
Is
by
Anonymous like constantly
it's
trying to hack into your
it's
home's
complicated.
Wi-Fi?
It's
Maybe
complicated
he
by
is
design.
anonymous. We've already
I've been to Tom's house. You know how hard it is to use his fucking Wi-Fi there? It's like, hold on. Now we have to get the authenticators.
Yeah.
If it's
Alpha,
random, if it's a
Whiskey,
randomly
Tango, Foxtrot, Yankee.
if it's a randomly generated 64 character password, you create it once, you never have to worry about it.
I know, but like if someone
And
wants to be
that's
like, hey,
exactly
Tom,
why-
what's your
that's
Wi-Fi password? Trying to get
I
on
understand
there.
why-
Let me hack into
Wi-Fi
the
is
Pentagon
also-
real
I
quick.
just don't understand why I have to explain why you'd want a 64 character password.
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, why does everybody think this thing? Why does it people who use these things think they're the fucking greatest thing in the world? And I will say there are some nice features. I like physical buttons. I like that you can switch it off, sleep or whatever.
I actually don't like
vibrate,
the
not
physical
that.
button.
Really?
This thing here. I prefer the.
I can live with that.
Android.
I can live with that because my Samsung has that. It's all right. I mean, but I mean, okay, it's nice to be able to plug the thing back and forth.
I do
course,
like that.
Although
With the exception of the
it's not
proprietary.
micro USB, so what the hell's that kind of sucks.
And the cable obviously
Kind
is
of
But this-
sucks. That
yeah.
cable's $30.
I know it's insane. No, they're $15.
It's crazy.
But the screen is so fucking tiny. It's so tiny.
is
I can't
really-
use.
I don't like how the
it's
mic
it's very low
or
resolution.
the headphone jack's on the bottom.
What are
Yeah,
you
that's-
talking about, Tom?
why'd
It's
they
a
put it on the
retina
bottom?
display.
No, it should be on the top.
People don't understand what that means. It means one thing on an iPad and a completely different thing on an iPhone.
The phone is also the camera is actually very snappy. I will
It's
say
not-
on the S5,
it is a
The
very
camera's
nice
very
phone.
fast.
The
I mean, very
only
nice
thing
camera.
that I will always
For a
say that I like about iPhones are their cameras.
Right.
They actually make very good
So we're not
cameras.
saying nothing but
Yeah.
shitty things, right?
Yeah, the camera.
But the
is
rest of
very-
it, fuck this shit.
Yeah, the camera is very good image stabilization, very good color reproduction, pretty good low light response for a cell phone.
Also, very good replication of detail.
Yeah.
Like we were comparing your S5 with that particular one that you're holding,
Right.
and like I was looking at the pattern of the colors on my jeans. Like it was kind of like had that faded look, and it actually replicated accurately on
Yeah.
the iPhone. The S.
Of course, that's a
5
preview image, so the
It's
S5
true,
may
but
dither
the
it out.
S5
for-
kind of like blurred it a little.
yeah.
You
The
can-
actual image you take though might be different. So
I took a random photo with the iPhone of like my desk in front of me. I wasn't even like steadying anything. It was just totally just floating.
yeah.
And I could zoom in and it was fine looking at the image, all maximum closeness. And there was I couldn't really detect any noise in the image like I almost always can with this.
Yeah, but your phone is a pretty.
Well, it's basically a Nexus 4.
Yeah,
slightly
Nexus
different.
4 doesn't have a great camera either.
No,
right?
it
So-
doesn't.
Nexus line hasn't traditionally had great cameras.
No, that's
You know what I
that's
realized about this though? This is so like Coming to America, right? Did
do
you
you mean?
realize
The Eddie Murphy movie.
iPhone 5S, Apple has a 5S, Samsung, we've got the S5. What?
Right.
That's like Eddie Murphy. Yeah, it's like they've got the Big Mac, we've got the Big McDowell or whatever something. No, forget it. Nobody remembers that movie.
I don't. It was, I
It was
only
one
do-
of Eddie Murphy's best movies.
going back
I
that
agree,
far.
but-
I only do Star Trek and Star Wars references. So
I'm just saying the thing is fucking overrated, and I don't understand it.
the
'cause
5S.
It's so fucking
Well-
tiny. Who could use a phone this fucking small?
I
What
think it's
Gordon's really saying is what he didn't say. What Gordon is not saying is what he actually said to me when we were at our desk, which was, "Sorry, no offense, but this is a girl's phone."
Right, it's perfect. They should come like with a pre-cracked screen, right? There's a
Hey,
sorry,
saying girls are clumsy.
I don't know what it is, but like of course now probably my wife's gonna break her phone, but I don't know what the fuck is this. Like I know like 5 females, and all their screens are just like pre-shattered.
I
Just like,
noticed that
you
a
just
lot of-
got the damn thing. What the hell?
I noticed that a lot of iPhone owners don't like getting cases.
Is that it?
Well, because they want their logo to show up on the back of their phone when they're using it.
Oh
in
man,
public.
what the fuck? You know what I want to know? What is it
I'm not
with
kidding.
the crotchless fucking like jean people, right?
80
It's like,
what?
It'll be like it'll
go
have
on Amazon. Go on Amazon. Like 80% of the cases you see will have a cutout on the
for
back
the fucking
for
Apple logo.
non-functional, just physical detail in the back that
Right.
happens to be the Apple logo.
Yeah, it's like the crotchless fucking jean or something like that.
What are
It's
you
like,
talking about?
like assless
you ever worn
chaps. It's like
crotchless
it'll be
chaps?
like this case is to protect it, but right over the Apple logo, there will be a fucking cutout so you can see the Apple logo.
on the
Yes.
back of the case.
I'm serious, and I see
Right,
the sign. It's like what kind of
Serves absolutely no function. except for to let people know that you're using an iPhone.
But I guess maybe the assless chaps actually serve a function for showing your ass, right? But
well,
I'm just saying,
I think they actually have an actual function for people who actually use them.
Yeah.
For like what
Wearing
rodeos
pants
or
in addition to
Yeah.
your chaps.
Oh,
Yes.
right. Why do I? There is a clothesline. It's crotchless clothes. Crotchless.
Okay. I get what you're saying.
I'm just saying it doesn't make any sense.
I don't know how we got to assless chaps.
Yeah.
But I think when we talk about assless chaps, that means we should wrap up the show. Because it's
On that
It's
note.
definitely gone downhill. All right. So make sure to check us out online at www.maximumpc.com. You can follow us on Twitter and Facebook. If you want to be a part of the conversation, you can email us at maximumpcpodcast@gmail.com. You can send us a message at our 24-hour No BS podcast hotline at 1-877-404-1337, extension 1337. You can subscribe to us on Google Play, iTunes, Kindle, Nook, and Zinio. On behalf of Gordon Maung, Tom McNamara, Elena Yee, I'm Jimmy Thang, and thanks for listening.